Listen Up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
All right, Jim Potts back on the air, and as usual, thank you for listening. Well, my producer tried to throw me a curve here, and basically is what we're going to do. We've got a live audience for this segment also. They all came back this week and demanded entrance. So here we go. They want to throw some questions at me. So I guess what I'll do is open it up to the audience and find out what kind of questions they may have. So somebody want to throw a question out?
Anyone?
Okay, so much for the audience throwing out questions,
Okay.
and so I'll keep.
Okay, we have one right here because I have a ton, okay? But we'll start right here. Go ahead.
It seems here lately we have several employees who are no longer happy in their current job, and they're just tired of doing it. And so what they're doing is they're trying to find a way, instead of just quitting or maybe moving to another department or another job duty.
They're retiring early and still working every day?
Exactly. So they're making more errors. It seems like they're trying to get fired. You know, they're making errors so that way they could get fired and hopefully get unemployment. So, of course, we're going through the process of documenting it and counseling them. So I was just wondering, what other process could we go through to make this happen quicker?
You know what? Sometimes people get burned out on the job. They want, I look at people and I look at their skills. We had a person working for us one time, and this person wanted to stay in the same job, didn't want to do anything else, but we needed people to be able to diversify. If you have people that maybe they're getting bored in their position, so maybe there's something else they could be doing. But if there's not something else they can be doing, I think you're on the right track. You've got to do the progressive discipline thing, but what they don't realize is that if they do get fired for misconduct after having gone through the progressive discipline, they're not going to collect the unemployment. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
But it also seems when we do that, once it goes to unemployment and we're there, oftentimes we lose because it appears that we just hired the wrong person.
Well, that's because with the EDD will determine it to be poor work performance. And unless you can prove they're intentionally not doing the work, you are going to lose for poor work performance. But that situation also comes up that if you can show that the person has been qualified before and that they did it, and there was some point in time where they changed, like as an example, they got a written warning and now all of a sudden they really started going downhill in their performance, those kind of issues can be fought if they're fought a certain way. All right. So again, every case is to itself. But I got to tell you something else. These days, the judges in the unemployment office, they're throwing money at people left and right. In all fairness, it's because of the economy. Some of the decisions, I can tell you that my office gets back in this area. I mean, there's some pissed off people in my office sometimes. I got to tell you honest to goodness truth. Because some of these judges, no matter what you do, unless you walk in there with a video showing that they used an Uzi to shoot somebody down, they're going to collect.
Right.
And some of the judges, we already know. If it's in front of this particular judge, we already know we got a challenge. Now, in all fairness, we've got some on the opposite side, but those aren't as many as on the opposite side. And a lot of these administrative law judges, they used to be public defenders. Now, what does that tell you? Now they're working as administrative law judges, and what are they doing? They're leaning in the same direction. All right? I appreciate the question.
Thank
I
you.
would say stick with the progressive discipline, do the same thing that you're doing, but the other reality is, you know what? You got to get the job done. And if they're not doing it, then you got to bring in some people that are more motivated in order to be able to do that. And there are plenty of them out there looking for jobs. All right? Now, I'm not telling you to go back and fire everybody. All right?
I know there was somebody else here with a question.
Well, I just was wondering, I had a situation where a girl went into her boss's office, which was a male, and wanted to order some new uniform pants, and she said that her pants were fading, and he said, they look okay to me, and she said, it's on the side of that, and he said, well, let me see, stand up. So she did, The next thing, she's complaining to HR that he was looking at her butt.
He was. Because what he should have said was that, you know what? I need to send you over to HR, let them discuss this with you. You follow what I'm saying? It's a dress code issue. If you're not happy with the pants, okay, please go to HR, talk to them about it, or whoever's in charge of the uniforms as an example. Let me just tell you something. Guys are always going to have to be, no offense, ladies, but 80% of the claims filed for sexual harassment are filed by who? Women against men. Guys just have to start thinking and using some common sense. Now, I had one the other day that was in mediation, and what happened was the guy, this woman is emotionally distraught all the time, and what he did was massage her shoulders because she was boo-hooing about something, massage her shoulders, and this actually happened a few times on different days that were spread out. It wasn't all at once, different times. She ends up losing her job, of course, because she had engaged in a behavior where she blew up at a customer. Now, this was an automobile dealership. Now, you don't blow up at a customer no matter where, but the dealerships are very high on customer service. And they turned around and fired her. Now, the owner did not know about this other issue. The owner fired her once he found out about what she had done with this customer. Well, she goes to an attorney, and the first thing that the attorney wants to say is that, his client is claiming that it was the way that he massaged her, that he did it with sexual overtones or in a sexual manner. Now, her perception could have been wrong, but it didn't matter because under these circumstances, her perception is always going to be what? Right. I felt that it was sexual the way that he was doing it. The lesson learned is what? Guys, don't put your hands on women in the work environment. And again, I don't want to get all these emails, okay? Sexual harassment is sexual harassment. I get it. I'm not an advocate of any kind of sexual harassment. But I'm just telling you that guys have to think out of the box and they got to use some common sense. One of the people came up to me from the audience came up to me and made a good point. And that is that, with all of these laws and all of these circumstances, managers are so busy now trying to second guess themselves that they actually can make mistakes simply trying not to do the wrong thing. They end up doing, trying not to do the wrong thing. They're thinking they're doing the right thing, but now they end up doing the wrong thing because they just so over guess some of this stuff. And it's ridiculous. It's like what happened out in Hartford, Connecticut a couple of years ago with the fire department. And this was on the news nationally. And that's what the city of Hartford did for their fire department. They gave a test for a promotion. And all of the minorities failed the test. All the Caucasians passed the test. So what did the city of Hartford do? They panicked because all the minorities failed the test. They said, we're not promoting anybody. So they sued so the Caucasian firemen sued for reverse discrimination. And then it went all the way up to the Federal Court of Appeals. And I always get her name mixed up, Judge Sotomayor, right, it's the female
It's
Hispanic.
Sotomayor.
Yeah, thank you, Maria.
Just checking.
And I can say Clarence Thomas, but anyway, that's okay. At any rate, so it went all the way up, and when it got to her court, when she was sitting in the federal court, she threw the case out. She dismissed it. So when she was going through the Senate confirmation hearings, that issue came up because after she threw it out, they appealed and it went to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court reversed her decision and said this was a case of reverse discrimination. And there's a case where the city panicked because all the minorities failed it, the Caucasians passed it, they promoted these guys up, they were afraid of what? Discrimination lawsuits. When all they had to do, because affirmative action programs are still in effect with some of the municipalities, is say, okay, you know what? We've got a policy, an affirmative action plan that says 80% and 20%. So what they should have done was simply take 80% of the Caucasians that passed and promote them up, take 20% of the minorities, take the highest scores, remediate them, okay, and then promote them in that 20%, and then have the waiting list for the other Caucasians who didn't pass. As time goes on, they would still be promoted up. But you know what pissed off the Supreme Court the most? The city of Hartford, they panicked. They literally threw out all the test results. There was no way they could actually look at the tests. Wow. And the justices were not happy about that. But you see, that's a common sense type of thing that you look at and say, you know what? This is not the way that this should have been done. She's given me the high sign already, about 2 or 3 minutes left. Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
It's a dress code issue.
Okay.
I have a manager that she send home one of her employees because of not following the dress code.
Right.
And then she came to work with a short dress without hose. And
The manager?
Yes. And the general manager just said he will talk to her. So she came back another day showing her cleavage. And again, the general manager said he will talk to her. Now, shouldn't she be written up by HR? I mean, she's a manager, HR manager. At what level is she supposed to be?
Well, first of all, a manager is always held to a higher standard. And in my opinion, she should have been sent home just like the employee that she sent home. Because as some of you know, I have 3 words that I always tell employers: be fair, be firm, be consistent. The moment you step out and away from those 3 words, you're going to have a problem.
Because we had a salesperson complain about it and another employee complain saying that she's been hypocritical.
That's exactly right. And you know what the problem is going to be now? Nobody's going to respect her or what she does or say because she's violating policies herself that she claims to be enforcing. So in my opinion, I think that is problematic.
Well, Jim, should it?
Be written up the same way like everybody else?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. But I'll tell you something else. I did a blog article last year on would you fire your number 1 salesman. Now you think about that. Because when people are at the top like that, in that particular circumstance, here's the salesman that gets to come in late because he's the number 1 producer and I'm not getting rid of him. That, once again, is not fair, firm, and consistent. And when an employer strays away from that as an issue, I'm telling you it's always going to be a problem. All right, with that last comment, it's time to close out this segment. But let me remind you, you can also hear us on Facebook at Listen Up and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Friday. We can be reached at 855-4J-POTS or 855-457-6887 between the hours of 9:45 and 10:45. Or you can email us at listenup@JamesWilliamPottsLLC.com. Okay, I'm Jim Potts. I will continue to fight the fight. See you next time.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@JamesWilliamPottsLLC.com. Until next time, make it a great week.